Hi, welcome to part 13 of my guide, Backgammon for Complete Beginners. Well, now it's time to discuss the use of the doubling cube. Now, I have to admit to being slightly in two minds about even featuring this in a guide for complete beginners. Not that the cube itself, the mechanics of using it are that hard to understand. It's simply that in gameplay, the use of the cube, making decisions regarding the cube, is a more advanced, better for more experienced players at the game to cope with. But I think for completion, I'll go through just the basics of how the cube works. And if I get on to doing a guide for more advanced or intermediate players, then we'll go into doubling theory in a lot more depth. Okay, the doubling cube. Here it is. Had a brief look at it before. It's not a dice. It's not used like the other dice in the set. It's not rolled. It's an indicator, if you like. And what it indicates are the current stakes, if you like, of the game. The value of the game. We've discussed previously how a single game is worth 1 point in a match, and a gammon is worth 2 points, and a backgammon 3 points. And that's when the stakes of the game are at the lowest value, when they're just worth 1 point, or 2 for a gammon, 3 for a backgammon. And that's how every game of backgammon starts out. The doubling cube, as an indicator, starts the game in a central position, equidistant between both players. Sometimes it's on the side of the board here. Some boards have a space for it in the middle, in between the bar, and they keep it there in the beginning, but on this board I prefer to keep it over here in a central position between the two players. And it starts showing 64 upwards. Now this doesn't mean the game is worth 64 times the stake at this stage, it just means 1, but it says 64 because they probably decided not to waste a space of the 6 sides of the cube showing 1. It's just taken for granted that that's a 1 when it's in the centre and it's on 64. So we're playing the game now, and the game is worth 1 point. If a player wins the single game, they win 1, a gammon 2 and a backgammon 3. But at any time during this game, either player can make the decision to double, and that is to say to offer to raise the stakes of the game, and they must do this before they make their turn, before they roll their dice. They make the decision. So we'll consider this position we have on the board now. We'll say that red is on roll. It's red's turn to roll the dice, and he looks at this position. We'll say that the players are playing to a 5-point match. First to reach 5 points wins. And it's currently 0-0, no score. Now, red looks at his position, and he decides here he has a considerable advantage in this game. And how does he arrive at this decision? Well, there are several criteria for deciding when you're in a good position in backgammon, when you're sufficiently ahead. One of these is the pip count that we discussed in the last episode. And here, red has a pip count of 151, and black has a pip count of 169. So red has a considerable lead here of 18 pips in the race, a fair lead. Also, red has hit one of black's checkers, which is on the bar. Oh, incidentally, I talked about the pip count last time, and I don't think I mentioned that on the bar, any checkers on the bar count for 25 pips against that player. So it's because it's 1 more than if it was all the way back at the 24 point for black here. So red has an advantage in the race. He's ahead in the race by 18 pips, so that's one good sign. He has a checker on the bar, that's 2 good indications. Thirdly, he thinks about the structure of his position here, and he has a much better position than black. He has 2 points made in his home board here. He has one of his back checkers has escaped all the way around. He only has 1 left to get free. He has checkers here and here, and indeed here, which are said to be builders. That is, on the subsequent turn they are likely to be able to play in here and make another point in board, or hit again here if black has trouble re-entering. So red considers he has a good position here, and in fact he's likely to win this game. About 70% of the time red is likely to win this game. So before he makes his turn, he decides, I'm in a good position and it's time to raise the stakes of this game. So he offers black a double. And he does this before he makes his turn, remember, before he rolls. And he takes the doubling cube here, and he turns it to face the 2 here, and he offers black a double by placing the cube on the table, on the board, the 2 facing upwards, and says double. What he's saying here is, I'd like to raise the stakes of this game, and instead of it being worth 1 point for the win, 2 points for the gammon, and 3 points for a backgammon, I'm confident enough to raise the stakes of the game by offering you the chance to play it for double the stakes. So, even if black accepts this challenge and accepts this double and takes this cube, the game will then be played for 2 points. That is to say that a single game will then be worth 2, a gammon will be worth 4, and a backgammon will be worth 6 points, 2 times the usual value of the game. So, black now has to make a decision. Red has challenged him by placing the cube on 2. When you use the cube, you always raise to the next doubling level, so from 1 to 2, from 2 to 4, 4 to 8. You can have a jump ahead. So, black must make a choice. Now he's faced with a decision. Do I accept the double? In which case, he will pick up the cube, leaving facing the 2 facing upward, and place it on his side of the board, here, to show that he has control of the cube now, and the game is now played for the stake of double, 2 times the usual result. Or, black might consider, no, I'm not playing this for double stakes, I don't stand a good enough chance of turning this game around and winning it, so I can drop. And when a player drops or passes the double, they lose. Straight away, that game is conceded, and you reset the pieces back to the initial position, that game is passed and over, and 1 point, the initial value, he's refusing to play for 2, so black would concede the 1 point, the single point that the game was worth before the double was offered. Now, in this position, as I've said, red is a strong favourite here, about 70%, and black's faced with the choice, do I concede this game or do I accept the double and play for more higher stakes at 2? And you may think that black would be a fool to accept here. He's only 30%ish chance to win, all things being equal. So why would he want to play for double the stakes if he's about to lose the game 70% of the time? Well, the whole art of doubling in backgammon is to consider what may happen and your odds of it happening. So if black only wins 30% of the time from this position, he will still want to take in this position even though he's losing. And the reason is this. When you take a cube, let's assume black here has made the decision, right, I'm going to accept the challenge here, I'm going to take the double, places the cube on his side of the board, 2 facing upward. And just turn that round so you can see. He now has accepted the cube, but he now has control of the cube. When it's on his side of the board, when you take the cube, accept that challenge and place it on your side, you are the only one that can redouble from here when it's in front of your turn. Red has no option to redouble again now. He can just play on unless he accepts a double from black. Black has the cube and he has the choice. So if he goes on and plays this game, although he only has the 30% chance to win, if he turns it around and suddenly is in a position where he is ahead, he can then choose before his turn to redouble and turn the cube to 4 and offer it back to red and say, I'm now in a position of winning and I am challenging you to raise the stakes to 4 times their value. That's 4 points for a single game, 8 points for a gammon and 12 points for a backgammon. I'm saying I would like to challenge you, and then red must make that decision. He can either accept the cube on 4 and take it round to his side of the board at that point, and the game will be played for 4 points, or he can refuse it, in which case he concedes the game and loses 2 points straight away, because when you concede a game, when you drop the previous value of the cube before it was offered. So it was already on 2, remember, it was offered 4, and red would concede 2 points there. I know this can all sound a bit confusing when you first hear it as a newcomer to backgammon, but it soon makes a lot more sense when you see it played out.